We are about to tell you about a fabulous mammal, actually. One of my favourites, second only to the fox, I would say, in the UK.
Well, we're going to treat you, actually, to some footage that we showed you at the start of the series 3 weeks ago when... Was the sun shining then?
I think it was.
No, I don't think it was, actually. I don't think it was. But anyway, let's show you again, because it was absolutely delightful. It's this, pine martens. And here we go. This was in the garden of Les and Chris Humphries in the Caingorms. Absolutely stunning. Look at that. They'd actually made an assault course for them. And it worked because they managed to see plenty of them. That was at night, but they then managed to film them in the day as well. And just this morning, they sent us this. Look at that, in the daylight. Kits in colour. How glorious is that? So they moved up there a couple of years ago and they've managed to get loads of footage. Now, obviously, pine martens used to be restricted to just the Scotland and Ireland, and then they spread to Cheshire, Shropshire, Wales, and the New Forest, where you are.
Yep.
So you know what, Chris? You could put a little assault course in your garden, and you might get wonderful footage like this as well.
I've got cameras out all the time, and I'm longing for the day when I check that little card and there's a pine marten on it. It's going to be a big day.
It would just be amazing, wouldn't it? But you can imagine they've lived up there quite a few years with those pine martens in their garden, and they've managed to get loads of footage, but not as much footage as a man called Dan. Now, he's been filming hours worth, thousands of hours worth of observations of the population that he's got in his garden. Well, actually, they're in his local area more than in his garden. And these direct field observations have given him an amazing and unique insight into their behaviours. He's learnt things that have never been seen before about their nesting, their kit rearing, basically their whole way of life. And some of the things that he's found out have been really rather unusual.
Rather unusual.
Rather unusual,
Well,
Chris.
from a biological point of view, quite interesting. He's been looking at the way that they defecate, the way that they poo. Here's a pooing pine marten for your delectation. You had a little poo there, and this one is pooing behind a tree, a little bit more discreetly. Why are we interested in pine marten poo? Well, simply because these animals are relatively rare in many parts of the country. They're quite secretive, so sometimes the only way we know they're there is by finding their poo. Let's take a look at it. Here it is. Like many carnivores, it's black or dark in colour, but what it often has is a little twist in its tail. And we thought that this was produced when the pine marten was pooing because it was shaking its bottom. Look at Dan's footage here. Here is a pine marten not pooing, but weeing, but undoubtedly wiggling while it wees. Look at that. And here again, it's short, but it's a wee wiggle. There's no doubt at all. So they're wiggling when they're weeing, and in fact what we've discovered is that when it comes to the poo, the twist in the tail, if you like, is only because of the consistency of the faeces and what happens when it hits the ground. But the weeing is more interesting because when these animals are urinating, they're spreading their personal scent, they're communicating. It's really important to them. He's also noticed something else new, lots of new stuff from Dan Bagur. Look at this. That's a female and it's weeing backwards. That's not too surprising, but look at the male. Testicles in full view, and it's weeing backwards. Something called retromingence. Retromingence. Something that I might be trying at home later myself. After all, why not? Why is it doing that? Well, think about it. It's got a wiggle because it wants to spread the urine over a bigger area, so there's more scent, more likely to be picked up by other pine martens. But if it's a male, it's not going to want to do that when it's weeing forwards because it's going to go all over its trousers, isn't it? So basically what it's doing is it's weeing backwards so it can clear the urine away from itself and leave that scent on the ground and not on its legs. And fantastic, Dan. And Dan's got a book coming out soon. Loads of new pine marten stuff in it. And we have saved wiggling, weeing pine martens to the last show, as Chris says. I don't need to say it, do I? But you know what I'm thinking, don't you?